The Prime Minister is going to make a speech later on today, and he's going to talk about radicalization and extremism. You know, those things, those two words that you love hearing on a daily basis, I'm sure, if you're a British Muslim. But the reason he's talking about it is, of course, off the back of 3 women taking their families out to Syria, and also previous cases where British citizens have decided that a life under Islamic State is preferable to a life here in the UK. And the Prime Minister is questioning what is going on in Muslim communities, what is being said to these individuals while they're growing up, while they're adults, that leads them to make these kinds of decisions. And one of the things that he's going to speak about is this idea that the West is bad and that democracy is wrong, that homosexuality is evil, that women are inferior, and that these are extremist views. So is he right to make the link between someone who feels that homosexuality is evil, feels that a woman's place is in the home, feels that the West and its culture is bad and that democracy is wrong? Is he wrong to make the link between those views and joining Islamic State? Or is he right? Does he have a point? That we allow these opinions to fester. We have these conversations whereby people talk about Western culture this, white people that, and then expect our kids to feel proud to be British? Is it no wonder that people choose to travel to Syria if they're brought up, say as women, that they're only good for marrying and popping out kids and living a mundane life, rather than perhaps living an exciting life? Not quite sure where they get the idea that living under Islamic State will give them a kind of equality in their life. I'm not sure where they've read that from, but perhaps that's part of the online grooming. So do you think he's right? That people who think the West is bad and live here, think democracy is wrong, and yet are more than happy to enjoy the freedoms, are those people extremists? And Sanjay is in Leicester. Sanjay, good morning.
Mate.
What would you like to say?
I just wanted to say, well, I was going to say something else, but after listening to Tahir and this other caller, I just want to say that, you know, the main objective for Islam is started to take over the world, and I have proof of that. The proof is that
why is that any different to Christianity, which is also a proselytizing religion? Christianity went around the world. Good grief, look at India, the amount of Christians that are in India, and Catholic missionaries and Catholic schools and Christian schools. You think they just turned up overnight? No, that was due to empire and conquest, wasn't it?
Christians have done a lot of wrong as well, but they're not still doing it. Okay, but if you don't mind, if I can just quickly finish off what I was saying, there are 60 Muslim countries, and if you look at every single country, most of all the countries, the religious minorities are just decreasing in population, while in democratic countries, non-Muslim countries like this, India, Muslims are increasing more than anyone. So what does that show you there? I mean,
it just shows they're having children.
No, that's their plan, is to take over the world.
Well, that's their prerogative. Yeah, if they want to start a family and have a big family, what's wrong with that?
It's to take over the world. It's not love, it's to take over the world. And like I've said, why are all the religious minorities being decimated from all the Muslim countries?
Why are the Muslims in Burma being decimated? And why were Muslims in Sri Lanka attacked by the majority?
Because of reasons. These was reactions, that's why. It wasn't that they...
Well, how can it be a reaction where you're a minority? Well, if you're being oppressed by a majority, I mean, that's the same argument as saying, well, the Jews asked for it in Second World War, pre-Second World War Germany, which would, of course, be a incredibly offensive thing to say.
You know, the heart of Islam is Saudi Arabia, and guess what? Guess how many Hindu temples there? 0. And the heart of Hindustan...
Sorry, what was the history of Hinduism in Saudi Arabia and the Middle East?
So what was the history?
How many
the history of Islam in India?
How many Hindu temples were there in the Middle East 1,000 years ago?
There were loads.
There were loads of Hindu temples in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, there was sheep temples, everything. Of course there was, thousands of years ago.
There were Hindu temples in Saudi Arabia.
Of course there were. The sheep temples,
do you know what? Do me a favour, Sanjay. Have you got email?
Yeah.
Can you email nihal@bbc.co.uk a link to the places, the exact places where Hindu temples were in the Middle East 1,000 years ago? Sanjay, thank you very much indeed. We've got to move on. Hussein is in Nottingham. Good morning, Hussein.
Morning.
What do you think of the Prime Minister's opinions?
I think there's a lot of double standards. I think on a lot of levels, and like some of the users mentioned, there's big lack of education. Everyone gets fed their daily news through the media. I think one of your chaps who called in, I mean, he's absolutely hilarious. He's discussing about Muslims want to take over. I mean, if he had half a brain cell, if he actually has, knowledge enough to actually study what's actually going on, he'll understand that democracy is always been happening by the Americans. They've always tried to take over every country. They're trying to put their footprint everywhere. I mean, they even tried to put the footprint on the moon. I mean, just tells you what level they're looking to go to. Muslims are not out there to take over the world. You're always going to get some lunatic who's going to try to manipulate. I can't pronounce my words now. Manipulate youngsters. Like the chap who went to, the little kid who went to Syria and bombed himself. I mean, they prey on vulnerable people. And this is it. And that chap who called in, who assumes that the Muslims are going to take over the world, again, you can tell he doesn't have much knowledge on it. He probably, I mean, if he knows much about his own religion, I'm assuming he's a Sikh. He's probably one of these chaps who probably hasn't been religious his entire life, read a few books and things that he knows everything. And that goes with every religion. You'll get some people who aren't religious at all. They probably read a few scriptures and they think that they know everything about their religion. But Islam is one of the most peaceful religions. And I think the Americans, I mean, one of the biggest issues with the British is, like you said before, we're the one who's supplying weapons to Israel. We're the one who supplied weapons to Gaddafi, Saddam. Same thing with
But Israel is a democratic country. It has democracy in it. Saddam didn't. Libya certainly didn't. Hosni Mubarak in Egypt wasn't a democratically elected president.
It's a double standard. I mean, they're allowed to do whatever they want. They're free. I mean, the Muslims are in a position where we don't have a voice. We are people voiceless. We don't have a voice to actually express ourselves.
But wait a minute. How many countries do Jewish people have?
Well,
one. How many countries do Muslims have?
It's not. We don't have countries. We live in countries. That's like saying how many countries do the British have? How many countries?
So you think the Saudis don't regard their country as a Muslim country?
The Saudis are pathetic.
You might say that, but I mean, I would think that they would regard themselves to be living in a Muslim country.
Yeah, okay. However, the Saudis are. I mean, end of the day,
look at Pakistan. Any country that has blasphemy laws, surely, is a Muslim country.
I think that's going to a completely different area of talk now. I mean, I wouldn't even go into that. But the Saudis themselves, despite
but you're arguing Muslims don't have a voice.
No, we don't. I mean, look at this country. What voice do we have?
Are you talking about in this country or globally?
No, generally we don't have. In this country itself, we don't have a voice. It's a known fact we don't have a voice. If I was to say a certain thing about, or give my certain opinion regarding about what's going on, I'll be picked up and pinned on as a terrorist. If somebody else does it, it's totally fine. Now, obviously, the Prime Minister is obviously going to work his way to, depending on what the situation is, he's not doing anything for us. He never has done anything for us. It's always been double standards.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people need to understand that, and more than anything, they need to educate themselves in regards to what's going on, rather than just picking up every stuff thrown at them through the news.
Hussein, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much.
You didn't, frankly, have the balls to put country before party.